Welcome to another Coin Compass Bitcoin Basics Guide to help you buy, store, and control your Bitcoin safely. Coin Compass is here to educate you about industry best practices, guiding you how to make informed and responsible decisions regarding your Bitcoin holdings. The first part of this series is about improving your security hygiene, or what in the IT industry is called OPSEC, Operational Security and Privacy. These OPSEC videos have been put together by Gordon at Coin Compass. Gordon has more than 20 years experience in IT as an information security analyst, including for one of Australia's largest banks. We believe these first series of videos are most important because if you decide to just go ahead and buy Bitcoin with your credit card, you could be doing so on an infected computer or a vulnerable smartphone. Bitcoin is the most secure financial asset in history, but a lack of understanding and poor security fundamentals have already led to over 5 million Bitcoins being hacked or lost. And that represents 1/4 of all the Bitcoins that will ever be created. In conventional asset classes, you'd keep your money in a bank, and the banker is responsible and liable for securing your funds, while your lawyer helps you protect your property and your assets. With Bitcoin, you're the banker and lawyer rolled into one. As there's no recourse or insurance, the safety of your Bitcoins depends solely on you. Now, this is not to scare you. We want you to be aware of the responsibilities, and we'll be providing you with the skills where you can confidently purchase and manage your Bitcoins. And use these skills as well to develop better security practices in your everyday internet habits. In the interest of time efficiency, we've edited the videos to be as short as possible without compromising the instructions. But if you're interested in the details and want to wander down the rabbit hole, there are links and prompts within the videos, allowing you to pause and do so. Coin Compass will recommend certain products and services, but we're not endorsing them. We do not receive any commissions or payments for our recommendations or reviews. We're independent educators, and before we recommend anything, we've researched all the alternatives available and have personally tried and tested the product or service. As information within this industry can become out of date overnight, please refer to Coin Compass newsletters and PSAs for current and updated recommendations. And also refer to our disclaimer on our website and at the end of this video. Now let's begin.
Okay, so why all the fuss? You might be thinking, I just want to buy a Bitcoin and I want to buy Bitcoin now. Why all these tutorials? Well, don't worry, we'll get there. But here at Coin Compass, we pride ourselves on best practices, and we want you to have the safest and smoothest experience in buying, transferring, and storing your Bitcoin. So a little bit of background and a few important things to consider first. If you do a search for hacking, mining, malware, viruses, or anything related to cryptocurrency, you'll come across articles like this where people are hacking other computers or Wi-Fi routers to mine their own cryptocurrency, in other words, using your CPU power, doing other kinds of crazy stuff like mining on TVs and all sorts of things. But perhaps the most significant one is actually this piece of malware which sits in the background of your computer and actually looks for Bitcoin or other crypto addresses. So you might be trying to move money from one exchange to another, and you're copying and pasting addresses, but the address that you paste is actually changed on the fly, and it obviously then goes to the attacker's address. So this is not to scare you or to make you feel overwhelmed, but it is a reality check that this really is the wild, wild west at the moment. It's a space that's totally unregulated, it's insecure, and there really isn't any recourse if something goes wrong. But don't worry, at the end of this video, I'm going to show you how to install Linux, which is a free and open source operating system, and that will enable you to confidently and securely do your Bitcoin buying, storing, and managing your own coins. What is a secure computer? Well, it's something that is separate or dedicated, and the software comes from a genuine source. So your operating system is something you've either bought or reinstalled from a proper CD, and it's something that you don't use for everyday use. So you're not playing games, you're not downloading music or surfing the web. It's something that is completely separate. It's free from any unnecessary apps, games, or any kind of browser extensions which might have malware in them. And the operating system updates are current, which means all the security patches as well are completely up to date. It also has security software and antivirus and firewall tools, browser plugins, all that kind of stuff. And unfortunately, nowadays, that's your second line of defense. Your best line of defense is actually your brain, your mindset. And just like you wouldn't walk down a dark alley at 3 a.m., nor should you sort of download random stuff from the internet and expect that to be okay. So for your daily computer, that's fine. But for buying Bitcoin, we highly recommend using a separate dedicated computer. Now, don't worry, you might be thinking, I'm going to have to go out and buy a whole new computer. Well, actually, no. So as you see at the bottom of the screen, I'm going to go through a demo of installing a secure version of Linux totally for free, and it's going to be the most secure operating system you have ever used. Why Linux? Well, Linux is open source, unlike Microsoft Windows or Mac OS X or anything else out there. You can actually download the source code, which is basically the program code, for free, and it is available online, like Bitcoin. And open source means that there are more people looking at it. So there are obviously some good actors like security analysts who are paid, or volunteers who are looking at the bugs and they're going to fix them, and also looking at enhancements of how they can make it more stable. There are also bad actors, obviously, who are looking to exploit for political or monetary reasons systems like Bitcoin and Linux and other open source projects. But all this does is actually makes it more secure. So you have more eyeballs actually looking at lines of code and being attacked and being fixed over time. And unlike Mac OS X or Microsoft Windows, you only have a couple of hundred employees actually looking at the code. With Linux and Bitcoin and other open source projects like Firefox, you literally have thousands, if not hundreds and thousands of developers looking at the code. So this makes it extremely robust, and it makes it extremely secure. As you can see, we've suggested a few options of where to install Linux. So whether that's your secondary or old PC sitting out in a garage that you're going to do a physical install on, or your everyday modern computer and you're going to do a virtual install of Linux, the first step is exactly the same. We need to download Linux first. To get started, we're going to download Linux for free, of course. And the version of Linux that we've chosen is called Ubuntu. And we're using a slightly different variation of that called Lubuntu, which is a light version. So just type in Lubuntu into your search engine or go directly to lubuntu.net. And like everything else, all the resources are linked in the description of the video. Click on download and simply click the first link. Now, whether you're on Mac or I'm here on Windows 10, save the files to somewhere you're going to remember, like the desktop or downloads directory or somewhere obvious. Done. Now, unless you've got a computer that is more than, say, 8 years old, try this version here, 32-bit, which means an older style CPU processor. But if that's not the case, sit back, relax, grab a coffee, and obviously depending on your internet connection, I'm on a fairly slow internet connection. As you can see here, it may take, anywhere between, say, 10 minutes and an hour. So sit back, relax, and see you in the next video. Now that we've downloaded Lubuntu Linux, the rest of this guide is going to be installing Linux within its own virtual environment on a modern computer. However, if you're going to install Linux onto a USB or that separate dedicated old or spare computer, have a look in the video's description for links and tutorials on how to do so. Let's get started. So to get started, we need what is called a virtual manager, and that enables us to install virtual machines. Like if you're on a Mac, you can install Windows, and if you're on Windows, you can install Linux and vice versa. And a couple of popular ones, VMware is popular on Windows and the Mac, and Parallels is definitely popular for the Mac. So if you have either of these two, feel free to use them. But I'm going to suggest VirtualBox, which is not only free, but ironically faster than the commercial versions that you pay for. So go ahead and go on to downloads, and if you're on Mac OS X, then obviously click that link, And if you're on Windows, click this link. Save it to somewhere you can remember, like the downloads folder. I'm on Windows 10 here. And regardless of whether you're on Windows or Mac, click on the extension pack because you'll need that. So click on that and install it. And depending on your download speed, go grab another coffee and I'll see you for the installation. Once your download is complete, and as you can see, I'm on Windows 10 here, but the process is almost identical to the Mac. And remember, everything is in the video's description, including any troubleshooting that you may come across. Go to the place where you downloaded all your files. For me, that's in the downloads directory. You should have 3 files. You should have the version of VirtualBox that's either a Windows file or a Mac file, the extension pack that everyone needs, and the .iso file, which is our Linux download. So let's go ahead and install VirtualBox. We'll ignore any messages from the App Store because, of course, we trust it. We got it from the source. And even though there are many options, we're just going to go through and choose all the defaults. So I've just literally clicked next, 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 next. So let's create a new Linux virtual machine. Click on New. You can call this whatever you want. You can call it Bitcoin, you can call it Coin Compass, you can call it your name. I'm just going to call it Ubuntu. You can change the path, whether you want it on the C drive or documents folder, whatever. Same on the Mac. I'm just going to leave it as default. The type of it is obviously Linux, and it's already pre-populated the list and worked out that we're actually going to install Ubuntu. A quick note, if you're only seeing 32-bit here, it means one of two things. One, your machine is quite old, which is fine, but you may struggle a little bit running Linux in a virtual machine. Or even a new machine has virtualization disabled, and that's a pretty quick fix, but I'll put that in the video's description. So we're just going to leave it all as defaults. You can change this to give Linux more memory. So for example, on my PC, I have 8 gigabytes of memory, RAM. Now I could increase this to say 4 gigabytes or something like that, but I'm not going to. I'm going to leave it as default, 1 gigabyte, for 2 reasons. Firstly, Linux only requires a small amount of memory. And secondly, the more memory that you give Linux, or really VirtualBox, the slower your normal computer is. So for example, if I give it anything more than say 4 gigabytes, my Windows 10 computer is going to slow down. So I'm just going to leave it at the default, which is 1024 megabytes or 1 gigabyte. Yes, we want to create a virtual disk. Pretty much leave all the defaults as they are. Okay, you can give it more space if you want, but 10 gigabytes is absolutely more than enough. Click on Create, and we've created a virtual machine. Now feel free to change some of these options if you want to. I'm just going to leave everything as default because it should work as default. But certainly if you're finding that your virtual machine is running slowly or there's some sort of compatibility issue, I'm going to leave a couple of links to common troubleshooting problems, but there's no reason why it shouldn't work by default. If it's not working, you can go through some of these settings, especially the network settings, and see if you can troubleshoot them with those links. I'm just going to leave everything by default, and we're ready to install Ubuntu. Okay, so we're finally ready to install Ubuntu, and don't worry, not all our videos are this long. In fact, this is quite long, because there's a lot of foundational setup and prerequisite knowledge that we need to go through first. So as you might have guessed, click on the Start button. And what we've done, we haven't even set up Linux yet. What we've done is we've created an empty virtual machine. So when we start it up, it's complaining that, well, I don't know what to do. So we're going to browse for the Linux installation that you downloaded previously. So whether that was on your Mac or Windows, search for the .iso file, select that, and then click Start. And that will load the installation. English, and start Ubuntu. So now that Ubuntu has finally loaded up, and we're just going to ignore this power setting, What we've done is effectively run it from a virtual environment, but we haven't installed it. So if we shut it down now, we're going to get this exact same thing again, asking us to install it next time. So if you're not really understanding what that means, effectively there's two ways of running Linux. Now we're kind of running it in a read-only mode. So every time we start it up again, it's going to start from the same position. But what we're going to do, we're going to install it so that it saves the information when we shut it down, and it's kind of like a proper operating system. So open install Ubuntu or double click it. And if you notice this screen, it's kind of not resizing properly. Even if I sort of resize this, you can't sort of see these buttons at the bottom. So I'm not sure why that is, but click this middle maximize button so we can see everything. So I'm pretty much going to choose the defaults. Feel free to adjust as appropriate. So of course it's guessed my location is Mexico City, which it's not. We're just going to use the defaults, so English. And this is the part where people freak out and they think that they're ruining or overriding their Mac or the Windows and they're completely erasing stuff. They're not. Remember, this VirtualBox is its own sort of dedicated system. So for example, we've created a 10 gigabyte hard drive in effect. And if we're choosing erase disk, we're not actually erasing anything to do with Windows 10 or a Mac. It's just within this environment itself. And that's what's called a virtual machine. So don't worry, we're not erasing your hard drive or anything like that. It's purely within its own ecosystem. Next. Now, of course, this information is up to you. Obviously, I'm doing a demo, so I'm going to put in whatever. I'm going to use demo and a password of demo 123, which of course is not very secure. Click next and install. And that's it. Sit back, relax, perhaps grab a tea this time instead, and see you shortly. And you'll find that after about 10 minutes, you're all done. Click done to restart. Okay, so we're going to press enter to restart. Okay, so hopefully when you restart, you get a login screen. Log in with my super secure password. And that's it. We have installed Ubuntu under Windows or Mac in its own little environment. And the cool thing about virtual machines is obviously we can shut them down, or we can simply close it. And we can obviously start it up again. So congratulations, you've installed Ubuntu or Ubuntu Linux on your Mac or PC to create a separate, dedicated, secure environment for buying, storing, and controlling your own Bitcoins. Look forward to seeing you in the next video.
Thanks for watching. All resources mentioned are in the description of this video. With your Bitcoin Basics video guides purchase, you also gain access to this video series for 30 days, Coin Corner newsletters for 3 months, 20% off any help desk credits for 3 months, Bitcoin Begins booklet, the full edition, PSAs, these are emergency alerts for 3 months as well. Visit coincompass.com and click on Members to gain access to any of the above and to check out our latest news, events, and updates. Any content provided by Coin Compass is for educational and informational purposes only and is not investment, legal, tax, or any other advice. A qualified professional should be consulted before making any financial decisions. Coin Compass is not a money transmitter nor broker, so it cannot buy Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency assets on your behalf. Coin Compass will at times recommend certain products, services, and technologies, but these are opinions based upon our experience and not endorsements. We take no liability for out-of-date or inaccurate information, software bugs, manufacturing errors, technology misuse, or issues involving third parties.